So you want to buy a watch, but you don't have much money. In this economy, that's everybody. But I'm gonna give you some tips, all right? The first tip would be don't buy a watch. It's a terrible addiction and you're gonna be left with some frustrating, crippling debt. And it's just never enough. You know, you find a watch that you like, you search for it, you finally get it, and then you're not interested in that watch anymore because the thrill is gone. So you gotta hunt for another one. So you keep searching, you find it, you buy it, and then guess what? You're not happy with that one. So then you keep repeating it until you're broke. Well, I'm here as the time teller to help you, I don't know, maybe save some headaches along the way. I'm definitely not gonna save you some money because I'm an enabler. Let's look at everything you need to know before buying a wristwatch. It is 5:17 p.m. Let's get down to business. Number one, what watch do you like, right? What watches do you think are cool? Regardless of the price point, okay, we're gonna talk about the price after, but think of some watches that you think look really cool, that you think maybe a function on it is something you're interested in. Look at a lot of watches and try to kind of nail down which one you really, really like, regardless of the price tag. Because once you find a watch that you think is really cool, then you can give yourself some options and you can hunt for one that kind of scratches that itch within a price range you're comfortable with. Next, I would consider what scenarios you often find yourself in. Are you someone that works a hard job with a lot of physical activity and maybe something like construction where you're going to need something very, very durable? Or are you someone that spends a lot of time on the water? You're gonna get wet. Well, then you need something with a decent water resistance rating. Or maybe you're just a pretty sissy boy that spends time in boardrooms and you wear ties and collared shirts and button downs and you need something a little bit more formal. I'm a sucker for dress watches, all right? I'm a sissy boy. Please leave a like and comment and say hi to Linky because he wanted to make an appearance on this episode, so bye-bye. But the truth is, when you figure out what you do most during the day, again, whether you're often in formal attire, whether you're doing some things that require a really durable piece of equipment, or maybe you get wet a whole lot, and then that's gonna also help you whittle down which watches you should choose from. Next thing to consider is the size of your wrist. Now, everybody likes a certain way a watch should look, right? And I'm not here to tell you how you should wear your watch. Heck, people complain about me all the time because I wear my watch on the wrong wrist. Although technically I wear my watch on the right wrist. Typically, you wear a watch that's opposite of your dominant hand, all right? I am a left-handed person, so I wear the watch on my right wrist, although most people in the world are right-handed, so they wear the watch on their left wrist. Doesn't really matter. If you have a watch strap long enough, use it as a belt buckle for all I care. I don't give a fuck. But we still want to figure out what size your wrist is. So there's a few ways of measuring it, but the easiest way is to get a piece of tape or a piece of string, wrap it around your wrist, mark it, and measure it. Now personally, I have a little bit above a 7.5-inch wrist, which gives me actually a lot of things to choose from because it's not the largest wrist out there and it's definitely not the most slender of wrists. But I personally, I'm a big dude, crazy jacked, and I have a little bit above average wrists. But I like to wear watches that are like 32 millimeters. I'm a vintage watch freak, right? So my bubble back, 32 millimeters roughly. There's no rhyme or reason, guys. You can wear whatever size you want as long as you don't wear an Invicta. I'm kidding, but seriously. Since this is my episode and I'm here to give you my perspective, I'm going to let you know how I prefer a watch to wear. So when we're looking at watches and we're measuring the watches themselves, right? We've already measured our wrist. So how do you go about measuring a watch? Well, there's a few metrics that we use in the watch world. You'll hear terms like lug to lug, diameter, thickness, right? And they're all pretty self-explanatory. So the lug to lug is measuring the lug to the lug, right? And I'm gonna explain all of this in a top-down thing right here. All right, so here we have a watch. Doesn't have to be this watch exactly, but this is my Rolex Explorer 2 16570. And normally I would just tell you the specs. I would tell you the case dimensions and everything. But right now, I'm going to show you how to measure a watch. And again, it doesn't have to be this watch. It could be this Seiko SKX, or if we go into the micro brand territory, it could be this Baltic Tri-Compacts. I forgot exactly. I think it might just be called the Tri-Compacts, whatever. I did a review on all of these watches on this channel, but let's just go with this one right here. Ideally, what you will have is something like this. This is a caliper tool, and it digitally reads out various pertinent measurements. Now, I got this on Amazon, all right, and this was like $12, and I have an affiliate link to this on my Amazon store. There will be a link in the description of this episode. But the way we would go about measuring this watch's case diameter is you go to the thickest parts of the watch, excluding the crown or crown guards, okay? So you would go diagonally right here, and you find the thickest part of the watch. Bada bing, bada boom. Again, excluding the crown guards. And for some reason, this actually measures quite a bit smaller than it says on paper. 39 millimeters. This is listed as a 40 millimeter watch. And there is probably a way, like here, if we move it around to get closer to 40 millimeters. Kind of depends on where you put the tool. For lug to lug, we will turn the watch on its side, and we will go to the widest parts of the lugs, okay? So from one lug to the next lug across, and you make sure that you hold it straight. 47 millimeter lug to lug on the button, excuse me. Then, to go ahead and measure the case thickness, you would again hold the watch on its side. Bada bing, bada boom. 13.2 millimeters thick. So, again, lug to lug, case diameter, thickness, and then the final measurement, you're going to use this rear side of the caliper. And this is how you test lug width. The watch is sliding around. Boom, 20.1 millimeters. This is a 20 millimeter lug width. And again, it's not like this is the most accurate caliper tool. This is one of the cheaper ones, but it's accurate enough to get great measurements on these wristwatches. And it's what I use day in and day out when I'm measuring watches for the Time Teller shop and when I'm measuring watches to write reviews. So again, just a simple investment in a tool like that will help you out when you're kind of getting a feel for different watches and the case dimensions. So there you go. So when I'm looking for a watch, there's a few metrics that I pay attention to first. And the first thing is lug to lug, okay? Lug to lug is going to tell you everything you need to know, even more than case diameter, about how a watch is going to wear on your wrist. So personally, if I show you my wrist right here, I don't like it when the lugs of the watch, right, we just spoke about the lugs, encompass the entirety of your wrist or overhang your wrist. I don't like that look. You can see here, my wrist is still shown on the other side of the lug. So the lugs aren't hanging over my wrist. I don't like that look. You guys might, but it's just not for me. The next metric that I like to pay attention to, again, over case diameter, is case thickness, because the higher a watch sits atop your wrist, the more cumbersome it's going to be typically. So you're going to have a lot of material on your wrist. If the millimeters get up above 15, that's a thick boy, and then it's going to feel, like a little hockey puck on your wrist. But if you're into that, that's perfectly fine. And I break these rules for myself a lot. I mean, the Seiko Tuna is above 40 millimeters, and it's, a little hockey puck on the wrist, and I wear that watch all the time. My SBBN 031 Tuna is like my favorite watch. It's one of my favorite watches. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because, okay, you measured your wrist, you measured the watch, or at least you're paying attention to what the watch's case measurements are. Seems like most salespeople, most watch reviewers, most watch media sites, most watch shops, they really harp on the case diameter. And in my opinion, that's not the biggest indicator by far on how the watch is going to wear on your wrist. So again, lug to lug first, then case thickness, then diameter, and then we pay attention to what's called the lug width, which is the width between the lugs. So it's not lug to lug, it's essentially the width of the strap, right? And so if we get into like 22 millimeter lug width, that's something kind of standard for sports watches or sportier dive watches. And then we get into things like 24 millimeters, and that's a very, very thick lug width. And then there's things that are kind of, awkward, like 17 millimeter, and the more obscure the lug width is, the more difficult it might be to find a strap that you like. But 20 millimeters is that sweet spot. It's very, very common, and there's a plethora of straps that you can find at that lug width. Next up, number 4, we're gonna talk about your budget, right? How much money do you got to spend? And I'm gonna be honest, all right, I have a pretty, I was gonna say versatile, I would say well-rounded collection, right? But when we're talking about value and price, I would say it runs the gamut. I have watches like this that I think I purchased this at like $37. And then I have watches like my 4533C. Oh my God, I'm gonna destroy that movement designation. My Vacheron, right? Vintage Vacheron, solid yellow gold bracelet. I have a solid yellow gold President. I have some, let's see, you know, my Grail piece was my solid yellow gold Reverso Classique. I have watches that are pretty expensive. My J14070 Grand Seiko, that's the first Grand Seiko ever made. These are watches that aren't necessarily cheap, but I don't really have like 6-figure watches either, right? But I do have a Panerai PAM 0111. I have watches that some people consider, I guess, luxury watches, even though they're nothing crazy. You know, I have a few Rolexes, whatever. And I didn't just mention all of that to brag to you about the watches that I have, because again, I've done a state of the collection. You guys can see the watches that I own. I'm gonna tell you right now, I get the most enjoyment from my more affordable watches, and I don't think that right out the gate, you need to spend anything above the $500 mark. In fact, I think there's a whole lot of watches under the $500 mark that I think you should experiment with, taste, kind of get a sampling of, until you really find out what you like and what you want from watch collecting as a whole. Because this is a beautiful hobby. Unfortunately, I see a lot of people throwing money at it, just trying to fill up their watch box, versus really kind of curating a collection, which is what I strive to do and what I strive to share with you. It's much more fun when you're taking your time and really finding what you like, learning, because that's why I love this hobby, is because of how much you can learn and how much you can just consume when it comes to the information and photos and just, you know, interacting with other watch lovers and really curating a collection and making it tailored to you. I see a lot of people, again, just spending a lot of money and just wanting to fill up a watch box so they can say they have a ton of watches. I have over 40 watches, and I'm sure a lot of people watching this have even more, but I've taken my time. I've no pun intended, I've taken my time as the time teller buying timepieces. And this all brings us to number 5, which is the final tip I want to give you. Have fun with your watch collection, right? They are your watches, and so before you buy a watch, have fun and understand that this is a journey, and it is your journey. You are not going to buy this watch for anyone else, unless you're buying a gift, right? Unless you're buying someone a very nice gift of a timepiece. It is your watch that you are going to purchase, and you shouldn't care about anyone else's opinion. You shouldn't even care about mine. I'm giving you some tips. I break my own rules all the time. You don't need to impress me. You don't need to impress your friends. You don't need to impress your significant other. You don't need to impress your parents. That's a big one for me. My parents thought I was going to be a doctor. But they're so proud. But don't buy a watch hoping to impress anyone else. You gotta wear it. It's your watch. You need to have fun with it. And there you have it, guys. 5 pretty simple tips about what you should consider before buying a wristwatch. I hope this helps. I hope it saves you some headaches along the way. And I hope that you take this and kind of make your own spin, and the more you learn about the hobby, maybe you'll come up with your own tips about what people should look for when they buy a watch. Leave that list in the comment section below if you have some insight that I missed out on, and I learned from you just as much as you learned from me. So guys, again, leave it in the comment section and I will see you there. All right, guys, another Time Teller episode in the books. I will catch you on the next one. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay blessed. Remember, guys, I am on Instagram at The Simple Consultant, and my Instagram reels are kind of going going viral. Everyone I put out is breaking the hundreds of thousands, and we have multiple that are like over 7 million. So if you want to see the wacky things I'm doing on Instagram, follow me at The Simple Consultant, and I have a bunch of fun over there, so I'd love to see you over there. Again, like, comment, and subscribe over here if you haven't already, and check out my car channel, T3 Time to Drive, where we have a bunch of really cool car content, because again, I'm not only a wristwatch lover, I'm a gearhead at heart. So yeah, I'll see you over there. Thank you for supporting everything I do, guys. I love you. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, I love each and every one of you. All right, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Jory Goodman, the Time Teller, and always remember, I didn't invent time. I just tell it.